Brandon, blogger Brandon, used to work at the Huffington Post. 800-450-7876, all things political. That's Brandon, the blogger. Anyway, let's move over now to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's mentor. We've been speaking a lot about her today. Neely Fuller Jr. Neely Fuller, welcome back to WOL Radio, and how are you doing, sir?
I'm still learning.
I love to hear that. You know, so many of us think we know everything already, and so we don't need to learn anymore. But every time we say how you doing, you say I'm still learning, and that's great to hear. I got to ask you this though about the system of racism and white supremacy. You says we need to replace it by justice, and folks, you got to listen real keenly to Neely Fuller because he uses logic and he uses a lot of metaphors to prove his point. Do you see a way that racism can be eradicated? A real reason that one day we'll live in a planet where there's no racism? That's the first question. And two, do we need the cooperation of white folks to do it?
Well, I don't know all of the details. I'm trying to figure out all of the details. But the concept is anything that people put together, people can take apart. Now, there's plenty of evidence that has been shown down through the centuries for thousands of years. Things that people put together, putting up a tall building or whatever, someone can come along and figure out how to take it apart much faster than it was put together. So it's the same way with social, religious systems, political systems, any type of system put together by people. That's a concept. I believe that concept so far because I haven't seen anything to refute it. Now, people said, well, with the environmental destruction going on, all like that, that's going to be put to a real test. And that is true. That would be put to a real test. But so far, I am convinced so far that anything that people put together, people can take apart. So therefore, in answer directly to your question, I believe since the system of white supremacy is put together by people, it can be taken apart. And it won't take as long to take it apart as it was to put it together. It can be taken apart, I believe, overnight. But you have to know what the formulas are, what buttons to push, what to look for. And overall, you definitely have to know how it's put together. I have in the front of the volume on counter-racism the textbook.
All right, hold that thought right there, Dr. Fuller. We've got to take a short break. I'll let you go to the book on the other side. Folks, you too can join us. You want to speak to Neely Fuller Jr., reach out to us. 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls after this short break right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power. Thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. The number to call to speak to Neely is 800-450-7876. So, Dr. Fuller, I'm going to let you finish your response. You were telling us about going to the book. And also give the title of the book for us, please.
Oh, I'll just give the title of the book. It's a long title. It's called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And then I have another title. In fact, I have 3 titles to it, trying to be as explicit as I possibly can. A compensatory counter-racist code, that is in the revised expanded edition, and one that is more explanatory than either one of the other 2 titles, and that is a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism. And racism is described as white supremacy. There's no other form of racism other than white supremacy for a very logical reason. We can't have 2 supremes in the same space called the universe. It's either one or the other. One is going to be subordinate and one is going to be supreme. So if you have supreme in anything, that's supreme. That means that that which is not supreme is subordinate, which is not supreme. So sometimes black people are called racist. They say that, black people are practicing black supremacy. There's no evidence of that. There's evidence of white supremacy. Nowhere on the planet is there evidence of black supremacy. None. Zero. Not even a little hint of it. Anywhere that I have heard about. But like I say, I keep my mind open. If there is a place where black people tell white people what to do, and they've got to do it, and there's absolutely no force on the entire planet or in outer space that can stop them, all right? That's when you're supreme. That has evidence that they'll put a stop to it. There's no black people that I know of that tell white people what to do, and white people don't have any recourse. None. The white supremacists, and that's what my book is about. It's an evil system. Racism is evil, but they are supreme. That doesn't say all white people. That means that the white people who believe in white supremacy are more powerful than the white people who don't believe in it. Where's the evidence of that? The evidence is self-evident. If the white people who didn't believe in white supremacy were more powerful than the white people who do believe in white supremacy, there would be no such thing as white supremacy. That's the logic. Everything in counter-racist science or any other science is based on logic. Logic is what? Cause and effect. Evidence. I think the call of the person who had been interviewed before me mentioned something about evidence. So the evidence is there. Evidence is there. All over the world, the evidence is there. The white supremacists are the most powerful political, and here's the next one, religious force ever to appear in recorded history. No religion, and there are plenty of religions on the world. Some of them can, say that they got a lot of muscle. They got a lot of influence. And apparently, most of the major religions do. That's why they are called major religions. But none of them, or all of them combined, have been able to eliminate the most powerful religion in recorded history, according to the evidence that I see, called the system of white supremacy. That's a religion. Why do I say it's a religion? A religion is what? A strong belief backed up by action. The white supremacists are the only people that I know that don't cut corners on their religion that I know about. The white supremacists come around and look at everybody's religion who say that they have a religion, and if those people have color in their skin, the white supremacists will take a look and say, well, what's your religion? Fella, person of color, male or female, what's your religion? And the person will say, well, my religion is this, my religion is that. They say, okay, well, I'll examine your religion. And the white supremacist examines everybody's religion, particularly all of the major religions, when it comes to the non-white people. And if they see anything in that religion that is effectively poisonous to the system of white supremacy, they'll say, now you can keep your religion. I'll let you have it. I believe in religious freedom. But you got to take this, and this out of your religion. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble with me, and you don't want to ever get in my face. Now, you can talk to your God anytime you get ready, but anytime you cross my business called the system or the religion of white supremacy, you are going to be in trouble, and I can prove it to you in about 10 minutes. Now, the white supremacists so far have done just that. They have made everybody of color who has a religion back down or even change major parts of what they said they were their religion. They'll go around and tell other non-white people, yeah, you do this and do this, and if you don't do this and don't do that, blah, 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 what will happen to you? But the white supremacists will step forward and said, hey, that was a part of your religion for the last 500 years or the last 20 years or 40 years, but you're going to have to take that out now. Why? Because I'm making a new arrangement that has to do with you dark-skinned people, and some of your religions say that I can't do this or that they shouldn't do that. But you don't tell black people what to do. Mr. or Mrs. whomever your religion is, if you're a person of color, I tell them what to do because I tell you what to do. You're the religious leader, you say. But I'm your leader, I say. Now prove me wrong. And so far, they've mopped the floor with everybody of color who has what they call a strong religion when it comes to anything in their religion that disagrees with what the white supremacists want done. Now, they don't mind you talking. You can say anything. But when you start acting, that's when they stomp all over you. And I haven't seen any evidence of where that doesn't happen, which means the white supremacist religion, called the religion of white supremacy, is the strongest religion that the world has ever seen. I haven't seen anything that nullifies that.
All right. I want to ask you a question, because the previous discussion, we sort of ended on immigration, and we had Sean and we had Sandy, two of our callers calling in, and saying that basically they're opposed to immigration because immigrants have not done anything for us. When we were suffering, they weren't in their countries, marching for civil rights for African Americans, and so why should we care about them? How does that work in as far as the system of racism and white supremacy is concerned?
The immigration?
Yes, sir.
Oh, the white supremacists decide, and I have it in a section in the book, it's called racial dislocation. That's one of their major strategies. Anytime black people look like they're being stable, right down to trying to run some type of little business, a little small business in certain places. They'll allow you to do it in some places and not in others. And it depends on what the business is. If the business is doing drugs, no problem. They want the drugs moved among non-white people, just like in the movie Godfather 1. They say, hey, we'll sell it to the coloreds. Ain't nothing but animals anyway. Let them lose their souls. All right? That's what they said, the Dons, But on a larger scale, the system of white supremacists says that. Now, they are in trouble because sometimes when you're putting out poison, the poison that you're putting out backfires on you. That's the law of compensation, which is in the title of my book. Now, but they are watching it carefully, and they are getting all over it. That's why they are being very lenient with white people when it comes to the use of drugs. When black people, nothing, the stigma was all on black people, drug dealer. Black male, drug dealer. If it looks like he's about anything at all, if he's driving a halfway decent car, he's a drug dealer. Because why? Because he's black. You got to be a drug dealer. You got to be doing something illegit, and that's the top of the line when it comes to illegitimacy at that time. But then when a lot of white people start using the stuff and dying from it, then all of a sudden it becomes a social problem. It's not a criminal issue. Everybody knows this. It's right there in front of your eyes. And they're doing that now. Now, how far that'll go, I don't know. But getting back to the immigration thing, the white supremacists decide where non-white people are going to go. Non-white people.
Hold that thought right there, Neely Fuller. We got to take a short break here. I want you to get back to the immigration thing because it's an issue in our community, and some folks trying to figure out which side we should be on. Your thoughts out there, folks. You want to speak to Neely Fuller? Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls after the short break on 1450 WOL, where information is power. Thanks for rolling with us, folks. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. Remember to call or speak to Neely. It's 7876. And I urge you, you've got to listen very, very keenly because he uses logic, cause and effect to explain his points, and sometimes use a lot of metaphors as well. So it's not one of these shows you can sort of halfway listen to it. You got to get your ear all the way into that radio speaker, okay? 800-450-7876 is the number to call to reach Neely, as I mentioned. Brother Neely, again, the immigration issue, because it's sort of divisive in our community. So I'm just wondering if you can explain to us, how the system of racism, white supremacy, how it works as far as the immigrants are concerned.
It's one of the major strategies of the white supremacists. That's one of their major strategies. Keep them squatters moving. They've kind of depicted that even among white people in many of the movies that have come down, because they send a lot of messages to white people, really, because they figure black people won't pick up on a message about dislocation, about people being forced to move from one place to another. The movie Shane was about that. People being forced to move. The Riker brothers, as they were called, who were cattlemen. And they came and they said that the ranchers were squatting on their land. Now, this is land that was taken from people who are called the red people, the Native Americans and whatnot. But it's depicted, and they have these fights among themselves about who's going to be where. So when it comes to non-white people, it's a shoo-in. They fight among themselves about who can squat here and who can squat there, who can establish here, who can establish there. They've always done that down through the ancient history right up till now. So that's business as usual, just like any criminal organization, which is what white supremacy is. It's a criminal government of the entire world. So criminals fall out among themselves, but not to the extent that they let the people that they're exploiting get any power. They fight among themselves, but it's all about how they're going to handle the people who are subject to them. So when it comes to immigration, meaning moving people from one place to another, that's real easy to do. They just cut off your water or whatever overseas. They do it on a large scale sometimes. The environmental thing is one way that they do it. They just simply say that, well, we got a river that feeds that entire population here on this particular continent of dark people. So we don't want them there anymore. But we don't want to go in there and have to shoot them down with guns. I mean, that'll be too obvious. We're not going to do it that way this time, because we don't have to do it that way. We'll just build a dam 700 miles up the river, and that dam will hold the water back. And little by little, it'll take about 6 years, and that'll fit in with our project, because they always think way ahead. It'll take about 6 years, and then they will notice that the water, the river, is drying up. So they'll have to move. And then when they move out, we move in and build a city there. And then we'll take the dam down and let the water come back through there. But meanwhile, they'll be wandering out there in the desert. Or they'll be somewhere around, even when we are building the dam, looking for a job at the dam. That's going to eventually cause them to dislocate. See, they are master thinkers. Black people have been trained to be little petty thinkers. We just think about, what the next election is going to bring. All right? The white supremacists are thinking, where are these black people going to be? Where are we going to move them to? Where they will be 200 years from now, and where we will be 200 years from now. Well, 200 years from now, we'll have them on this place and that place and whatnot, and they plan it, and that's where we'll be. Why? Because we have only been trained to think in terms of what's going to happen next week. Maybe that far. We've been trained that way. It's not our fault, because we are raised by them, if you can call it raising. Really, it's just control of prisoners of war. But let me stick to the subject. Immigration, that's determined by the white supremacists. There's no way, as long as we have the system of white supremacy, for black people to fight that. No way. Why? Because they run all of our business in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Now, I said sex 3 times because right now they're manipulating black people all over the world sexually, because that's one of their long-term plans. Because they know that when they confuse people sexually, they can confuse them into everything else. Or really, they don't have to confuse them into everything else, because we'll become a silly people in everything else. Once you add a lot of silliness to sex, rather than something that's going to be of constructive value, once you cause a lot of confusion just with sex alone, because sex is a great driving force. If you can manipulate people sexually, you can manipulate them in religion, in education, in entertainment. You can just manipulate them all over the place, and they will enjoy the manipulation. That's just the way it works. See, they are very scientific in what they do. The most scientific people that have ever appeared among the people of this planet in recorded history. But the immigration thing, what can you do? Because codification, the way I've written it in the book, is about what do you do when things happen. What the individual person can do, the individual victim of racism can do. First of all, along about now, 2019, stop accumulating stuff. Why? Because you're going to have to move it. That's why. For the time being, the white supremacists have a plan of keeping black people moving. Keep them squatters moving. That's what we are in the prison camp called the system of white supremacy. Don't let them get settled. Black people are getting a little bit smarter than they have been. So when they set down roots, they start thinking about improving, just like all creatures do. Once you don't have to move, and it seems like you're going to be here for a while. It seems like whatever job you have or business you're running, it's going to be here for a while. So then you start doing additions and whatnot. You start figuring out a way to make things better. All creatures do that. Even the most primitive of creatures do that, including people. Because black people are basically considered to be primitive. Prime stage of development, they call it. But even us, in our primitive prison-like state, when we set down some roots, you might say, and it looks like we're going to be there for a while, and that things are going to get better, then we start looking for ways to improve our condition. All organisms do that. But the white supremacists said, no, we're not going to have anything like that. So yeah, black people are getting smarter, just a little bit, not a whole lot, but they are getting smarter than they have been. We try to keep them as dumb as we can, doing stupid stuff, and having them worship stupid stuff, which we're pretty good at. And they're pretty good at following us and doing that. That's the white supremacists talking. But now they're thinking about, having some type of stability. A few of them are. But we're not going to allow that. So what does that mean in a practical sense? Stay ready to move. Because we are their prisoners of war. And prisoners of war might be moved from camp to camp, and from camp to camp, and from camp to camp. But wherever you move, I don't care if you move from Nigeria to Sweden, which you find out when you get there, they got a place for you. The white supremacists are supreme when it comes to the business of non-white people on this planet. And it's our job to see to it that they are put out of business. So for the time being, just don't accumulate a lot of extra stuff wherever you are. Why? Because you're going to have to move it. And it's going to cost you a fortune to move it, because they're going to charge you a fortune. because they want to make everything difficult for you. So just like good soldiers, which is what we're supposed to be, soldiers, they travel, they have to travel light. They have a little backup here now and then and whatnot. But for the most part, say like a paratrooper, you drop behind enemy lines, you're not going to get any help, which means you got to have everything for you. So if you forgot to bring that can of sardines, you're in trouble when you bail out of that plane. So that's the way black people worldwide should look at themselves.
All right, hold that thought right there, Neely. We got to take another short break. Folks, you want to join us? 800-450-7876. Those are the magic numbers. We'll take your calls after this short break right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power. Well, thanks for rolling with us, folks. Our guest is Dr. Francis Cress Welch's mentor. His name is Neely Fuller Jr. He's written a great book about racism, white supremacy. He says they're the same thing. And I keep telling you, got to listen real keenly, because a lot of folks really don't get it. And I'll be honest, I didn't get it the first time when Dr. Wilson laid it out. But I kept listening and kept at it till I figured it out. And so those of you who are struggling with it, you too will, just keep listening. But you got to listen real keenly, because he uses logic. Those of you who've taken logic in college, you understand it, cause and effect, and he uses a lot of metaphors as well to prove his point. Before we get back to Neely, let me just tell you, some of the other people are going to be stopping by in the next few days. Tony Browder's going to be here. The Irritated Gene is going to stop by. Brother Ashra Quasi is going to be with us. Also, Brother Ray Fauntleroy. So if you're in the DMV, tell all your friends to keep their radios locked on 1450 WOL, where information is power. All right, Neely Fuller Jr., I'll let you finish your thought, but also you once told us that the black folks, that we're one, we're too emotional, and two, we just talk when we should just shut up. We just keep having these mindless conversations with each other when we don't need to be having a conversation with each other. Can you explain both of those things for us after you finish your thought?
Everything that black people do should be about problem solving. We should become, having a reputation all over the world. When they look and see black people, here come the problem makers, okay? Because they have helped to make us problem makers. That's what the system of white supremacy does. And then they step in, Big Daddy and Big Mama, white, and solve the problems. All right, you children, you ne'er-do-wells, you savages, you primitive people, you're just down there knocking your heads together and feeding off of each other and killing each other, glorifying it. And then when the mess gets too far out of hand, just a couple of us white supremacists walk in, look at the mess, and it takes up maybe, after you have been making the mess for about, 40 days, in about 10 minutes, we figure out a way how to clean it up and whatnot, and put you to cleaning it up, and try to get you not to make too big of a mess where it hurts my business. But I want you to be messy people. That's the white supremacist doctrine. So when black people get together, we should counter that. That's why I'm trying to write, or tried to write, what I call the first parts of a code that will unravel all this system of white supremacy. Because we can't be outside of it. You have to erode it from the inside. Because there's no such thing as being on the outside if you're black. Okay? So you have to actually erode the system. Now, how do you do that? By knowing how it's put together. And then you counteract whatever they do that holds it together. So one thing they do that holds it together, they have black people going at each other all the time on everything. We find a reason to go at each other because that is so comfortable. That is so convenient. That is so easy to do. Because we want to be men. We want to be women. All right? We don't want to be boys and girls all the time or any time when we're supposed to be mature. So we try to pretend that we are men and women. But it's not going to happen in the system of white supremacy, according to logic, not according to Neely Fuller. Men and women, when you say man, you're talking about manager. That's what man means. Whether it's male or female, manager. female is woman, the womb of man, which is the same thing. Managers, people that can solve problems. Black people are not supposed to be problem solvers in the system of white supremacy. A black person who can solve a problem and solves a problem is deadly in the system of white supremacy. Solve a problem in a constructive manner. You are a black person with black skin, and you can solve a problem. You are constructive. In other words, something that was non-constructive, you walk into a situation and make it constructive, and you're black. That's never supposed to happen in the system of white supremacy. If a black person does anything that makes sense in the system of white supremacy, it's supposed to be racist man and racist woman patting them on the shoulder saying, I taught you to do that and you did a good job. That's mandatory. All over the planet, that is mandatory. You get out here and even try to do something on your own that makes a little bit of sense, and the white supremacists immediately want to find out who you are. If you don't believe it, try it. Any black person anywhere on the planet within range of what I'm saying right now, try to do anything that is of constructive value. Now, as long as it's non-constructive, they'll show up and witness it and give you all the credit. If it's something that's absolutely destructive. I mean, you're coming up with some new way of harming black people, and dumping it on us and whatnot. The white supremacists will say, hey, if you need any help with that, buddy, just walk in on me at any time, unannounced. I'll help you with that. Anything that's going to be harmful to your people, what you call your people, they're really my people, including you. All right? But anything that's going to be harmful, and you need some help with it, I'm with it. But anything that's going to show any promise of any constructive value, and it's going to take root, you let me know about it, and I'm going to shut it down. Because this is bad for the business of white supremacy. That's the way they operate. When we understand that about white supremacy, we have huge understanding from now on about everything. The white supremacists don't want any black person to do anything constructive. So getting to the core of what we can do, because we are toxic people, including Neely Fuller. Neely Fuller has a certain amount of poison in him. He knows that. See, that's the first thing to know, that you're poisonous. If you're black in the system of white supremacy, you are a poisonous person. There's nothing holy about you at all, because we came up with their tutelage. They taught us. Even when we're not aware that we're being taught, we're being taught. So we are full of poison. This is why we engage anything with each other. That poison comes to the surface right quick, because they have programmed the poison to come to the surface right quick. That's why we can't even understand each other and why we're so hostile to each other. It's because this was put into us even before we were born, because we were born in the system of white supremacy. So that includes everybody who's on the planet now. We might have been different trillions of years ago, but as of now, we are very poisonous people. And when we try to walk around acting like we are not poisonous, that's when the poison is at its worst. Because it spreads rapidly then, because it gives the black people the illusion that there's something magical about some one or two or three or four dozen of us, because we are able to accomplish some things that make sense. But we're still carrying poison. And we can't make too much contact with each other. I can't emphasize that enough. So when we do make contact, you always make sure before you make the contact with another non-white person. You can start this with what we call our holy days, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all like that. Just make a vow. And certainly in the new year, we make New Year's resolutions, we sometimes say. Just say, you're not going to make contact with any person, white or non-white, unless that person has something constructive to say or do. Now that sounds rough, because that really gets into the business of knocking out what we call black culture. That knocks black culture out of the ballpark, right there on that one thing, because we love to get together, hug each other, high five, laugh, laugh, laugh like you couldn't believe, do a little snorting, do a little drinking. That's our tradition, black culture. And then start fighting all over the place. And nowadays, in 2019, pop, 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 pop. The 9mm Luger pistol. Hitler's pistol. Hitler is supposed to be dead. The 9mm Luger lives on. '08 Luger pistol. Walther pistol. Walther. You've probably heard these names. You've heard the name Luger. Sometimes you see it on the box of ammunition when you're loading up your clip, getting ready to kill the young black guy that you went to school with 7 years ago down the block. But you all fell out about 2 years ago, and you had a couple of beefs. Now, Hitler's 1908 Luger pistol cartridge, shiny, copper, in that box, even looks cute going into the magazine. It's shiny. It's shiny, like the rings on your finger, all right? Like primitive people, we always go for something shiny, all right? That copper bullet going into that magazine that now goes into the stock of that Luger, or no, not the Luger or the Walther. It's different types of pistols now. They're the 9mm. They're all over the place. But that's what you're going to kill him with. I can't think of the most popular one. The one that fires rapidly, that the law enforcement officers carry now. But that Luger is there. They say Hitler lost the war. No, he didn't. He ain't lost nothing. He's smiling wherever he is, particularly when it comes to black people, because we are slaughtering each other with what the SS officers carry in their holsters on their belt. Now, it might sound like I'm digressing now, but also I just want to hold up a picture to what we have become. And we need to stop bragging. That's another thing. And this stuff about black people celebrating, that's another thing. Don't celebrate. Black people are not qualified to celebrate. Nowhere on the planet. We're not qualified to celebrate anything. So what do we do with these days that we get off? We educate. That's all we have to do. Just change the word celebration to education. Call them education days, not celebration days. We're not qualified to celebrate. We are qualified to get educated, because we don't know enough to solve our problems. So when we make contact with each other, because codification, counter-racist codification, is about what to do about stuff. So what we can do is make sure I'm not calling you no more. I'm not coming over to your house no more. You're not coming over to mine unless there's something absolutely constructive that's going to happen as a result of that coming and going.
All right, hold that thought right there. We got to take another short break. I'll let you finish that thought, folks. And now you understand why I always call for solutions. Because we all know what our problems are. And Neely Fuller said, a dangerous person come up with some solutions. 800-450-7876 to speak to him. We'll take your calls after the short break right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power. Thank you for staying with us, folks. It's 6 o'clock straight up in Washington, D.C. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. The number to call to speak to Neely Fuller Jr. is 800-450-7876. His book is basically called The Code. Well, Neely Fuller has been trying to teach us, along with Dr. Wilson, that we need, that the other folks, they have a code when it comes to dealing with us. They all stay on code, whether they're from Norway, London, whether they're from white South Africans or Australians, New Zealanders, whatever they are. When it comes to dealing with us globally, they have a code, a conic, which they do. Well, he's been trying to teach us, and Dr. Wilson, all these years, that we need a code to when reacting to them. But Neely Fuller Jr., if you can, I'll let you finish your thought, but if you can explain why you use the why you use the metaphor of us being in a prison, why we just fighting each other. We're scared to fight the warden or fight the man or go after the oppressor, but we go after our own brothers and sisters and attack each other. We don't understand that we've been sort of we've been programmed to do that. So if you can explain that after you finish your thought, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, well, we can put a stop to it simply by it's just two ways to go, each and every minute of each and every day, constructive or non-constructive. Everything that people do is going to have the effect of being something constructive or something that is non-constructive, or we might say destructive. Everything. So when you divide everything that you do into that category, that includes just sitting down eating a plate of food, which we're going to be doing tomorrow. Now, everything on that plate, according to your body, is going to have a constructive effect when it goes into your body, or a non-constructive effect. And when it has a non-constructive effect, that's when you go for the medicine cabinet. That's why you have a medicine cabinet in most places, apartment buildings and et cetera. Sometimes in hotels, you have a medicine cabinet. Depends on how fancy the hotel is or the cruise ship is that you're on. Why? It's to compensate, which is in the title of my book, Compensatory Code. Compensate. Compensate for what? To do what should be done on account of you did what shouldn't have been done. That's what that medicine cabinet is for. Somebody doing what they shouldn't have done, one way or another, by error or deliberately. And so the world is set up. We need to pay attention to details about things, like what I'm describing right now. How did anybody come up with an idea for a medicine cabinet? Because people predicted people are going to do things where they make mistakes. You cut your finger trying to cut an onion or something like that, and you run to the medicine cabinet to get a bandage for the injury. Now, you can injure your body, which tomorrow a lot of people are going to do on account of they're going to put a lot of poisonous stuff into your body. And we're talking about cause and effect because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about solving black people's problems. Everything is cause and effect. So when you eat incorrectly, and this is touched on in the book, not in depth, but when you eat incorrectly, and I sometimes do, Neely Fuller's guilty. Why? Because one thing, all the food is poison anyway. So you're going to get some poison. That's why the body is set up in such a way that it eliminates certain amounts of poison. But the body at a certain point, just like the body has a will of its own, the body at a certain point gives up on people, saying, I keep getting rid of junk by all the means that I'm set up to get rid of junk, and you keep putting junk in me. Now, I'm getting sick of it. I'm your kidneys. I'm for you. I'm going to work for you. Your kidneys can really speak to you. Because they speak to you through what? Something that's invented by the Creator called pain. So your kidneys hurt. Why? Because you're doing things to your kidneys, and your kidneys are getting to the place, look, I'm working overtime. I'm doing everything I can to keep the poison out of here. and you just keep dumping poison in here and dumping poison in here, you know what? Just like anybody on any job, your kidneys can speak out if they made a cartoon of it and say, you know what? I'm quitting this job. I'm going to get me another body that has some regard for the work that I do. Because you don't have no regard for the work that I'm doing for you. I'm out of here. So your kidneys quit. They quit the job. And every doctor can tell you when your kidneys quit, you are quitting. Your lungs decide, well, the kidneys checked out. They ain't working here no more. Hey, I might as well, hey, ain't no point in me working because the kidneys ain't going to do their job. I can't get no cooperation here. Your body really talks. All of your organs talk to each other. Really, they do. You know, is Neely Fuller, where'd Neely Fuller get this kind of nonsense? Because if you stop and think about it, that's what's really happening right this minute. You got a body. Parts of your body talk to each other. I hear my stomach groaning sometimes. I don't know what that's all about, but that's a message being sent. Maybe to other organs, if I'm not paying no attention to it, saying, hey, I'm gonna dump another load, some of my load over there on you because I can't handle it over here. That's your liver talking to your kidneys. I can't handle this poison over here, so I'm going to dump some of it over there on you. So look for it, because it keeps coming. Now, I'm talking about tomorrow, what we call Thanksgiving in the Northwestern Hemisphere. Think about that, because this is all a part of fighting white supremacy. It's all a part of black people becoming a better people. Pay attention to everything. Like I put in the textbook, the white supremacists go to the bottom of the ocean and get 1 grain of sand out of the entire ocean and bring that grain of sand into a laboratory and sit there and study that grain of sand, take it through all kinds of changes, put some purple dye on it and whatnot. Every now and then, might take it and wash it off and then put some alcohol on it in order to what? See what it'll do. Fuller, his black self, he'll walk past the white supremacist sitting there looking at that grain of sand under a microscope and say, Brian, what's that you doing? I come by here every day and you in there in that microscope, what are you doing? And he'll say, I'm studying this grain of sand. And I'll say, studying it for what? He say, because it's there. I found it in the Baltic Sea at the bottom. And I've never seen a grain of sand like that before. So you sitting there wasting your time studying a grain of sand that you got from the bottom of the Baltic Sea when you went on vacation and you never seen it before, and that's why you're studying it. And he says, yeah. And I say, you're a fool. That's Neely Fuller talking with his black self. So I walk on down the hall. But 50 years later, they find out that that species of sand has all kinds of minerals in it that will cure 15 different types of cancer. That's how the white supremacists think. But Neely Fuller, with his dumb self, he'll walk past a whole pile of sand. I mean, walk all through the sand, raise sand, and never pay any attention or raise the question to, why is this sand here? What does it do? What is its potential? Maybe I should pay some attention to it. Why? Because it's in the universe with me. That's why. And I should pay attention to every leaf on every tree, every grain of sand, every drop of water. If what? If I'm going to be as smart as the people who have been telling me what to do and providing me with everything that I have ever had, and ever likely to get, because they study everything. What do black people study? Each other. Let's tell the truth now. Black people will walk past the entire universe. Even if we're on a cruise ship, we walk up on deck and what? Crane our necks, not looking at, the water around us or the mountains or whatever, happens to be around the icebergs, wherever we happen to be. We look at the homeboy down on the other end of the ship. Hey, bro, let's tell the truth now. That's all we pay attention to. That's why we don't learn anything. Why? Because we can't learn very much studying each other. That's why. Pay attention to something else. That's a part of the code. Now, it's not black culture, because black culture means black people don't pay no attention to nothing but each other. And usually, with doing what in mind when we see each other? Finding something to criticize. All right? That's the truth. We're programmed that way. But we don't have to be. Start paying attention to the world around us outside of the box we've been put in. Because we're being put in boxes all the time too soon. Called coffee.
Hold that thought right there, Neely Fuller. And when you come back, tell us why we're always at each other's throats and afraid to go after the oppressor, the people who are really keeping us down. 800-450-7876. You got a question for Neely Fuller Jr. The lines are wide open. Reach out to us. We'll take your phone calls after this short break right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power. Thank you for rolling with us, folks. Our guest is Dr. Welson's mentor. His name is Neely Fuller Jr. He's got a book out. It's a workbook. And I just used the short version of it. We just call it the code. Basically, what he's teaching us that the oppressors, the folks who are against us, they always have a code. They know how to react to us anywhere we are on this planet, anywhere they're from as well. They have a code, and what he's been trying to teach us is that we need to adopt a code, and he's giving us the areas where we should have a code to react to them. So, Neely Fuller Jr., right before we left, I was asking you, why does it seem like we're always at each other's throats, but yet we won't even look or even give a side eye to the oppressor. But if it's one of us, we're out to take him out or take her out. What is behind that? Are we programmed to hate each other that much?
Absolutely.
Why is it so successful?
Yes, sir. And answer, excuse me for jumping in like that, but I'm chomping at the bit to do that. My goodness. That's all we seem to know. That's all we look forward to when we're on a job. Oh, this job is killing me. I got to get off of this job. I'll be glad when the bell rings and I can get off of this job. Why? So I can go around and be around some of my black people so that I can feel comfortable doing something with them that is pure nonsense. Because that's the way we are. We've been programmed that way by the white supremacists. We are not interested in anything except being around each other and spreading that poison that we all carry when we're around each other, and then boo-hooing in front of funeral homes over and over and over and over again. Teddy bears and balloons. All over the place. And then back to the job and plan to do the same thing again as soon as we can. The code says we need to stay away from each other like poison, which is what we are. Except for what? Now, we can be with each other and should be. But the only contacts we should make by phone, and we got plenty of phone talk. You hear black people talking on the phone loud on the bus all the time. Okay? Usually with hostility. Well, you just wait till I get over there. I got something for her. I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, I'm going upside her head, and I done told that woman 1,000 times. I mean, I ain't going to tell her no more. Now, you tell her what I said, because next week I'm going to come over there, and I don't want no stuff. Now, that's what you can hear. The white people burying their heads in the newspapers, all right, without reading what's there, just trying to shut out what's going on from black culture, all right? Black culture is not worth 5 cents on nobody's register that's got any sense. Yet we're trying to brag about this rotten culture that we have, and we need to stop it. We need, you know, well, what is culture? Culture is nothing but what you do at the time you're doing it. And look at the things that black people do. Now, nobody should want to copy what black people do in black culture that's got any sense. Nobody. Yeah, white people dabble in it, but that's when they, what they call, in the old days, they used to call it going uptown, you might say, and going slumming, going across the tracks. I mean, and hanging out with the Negroes and acting like Negroes, all right? But then, after you get through with that, maybe on a weekend, that's enough of that. Let's brush ourselves off, get all that black stuff off of us, and get back on the other side of town and act civilized, all right? When they taught us all of that stuff that we do, that doesn't make sense, okay? But they'll dabble in it every now and then to make sure that we keep doing it. And they'll finance it as long as it's something absolutely stupid. They'll bury you in money. If you want to start any kind of enterprise, and you can just look at the evidence if you want the evidence, anything that looks like it's going to be non-constructive to non-white people, the white supremacists will finance it. But don't let me get too far away from the question. The question is, what do we do? Stop being in each other's company unless we have something that is absolutely constructive to do or say. Now, this is going to hurt everybody's feelings, including mine. But that's what the antidote is. We keep saying decade after decade, 100 years past, 200 years past, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? One of the simple things we can do is stop coming around each other with a whole bunch of poison. If we can't do something constructive, we shouldn't even look at each other, shouldn't say anything to each other. And we shouldn't do anything to attract attention. Black people love to attract attention. Now, let's tell the truth about that, too. Things that we do to ourselves, things that we say, the way we act in public, we love attention. But after we attract attention, what is anybody going to do with the attention that we have attracted that makes sense? This is why when we start trying to attract attention, white people run the other way. And the only people that come toward us are other black people. And then when we get there, we say, how come you trying to get more attention than I'm trying to get? Then we start fighting. We are crazy. I mean, super over-the-top crazy. And what's really pitiful about it, we have no idea how crazy we are. But we don't have to be. And I'm talking about we can change that overnight, simply by just that one thing. If I don't get across nothing else this evening, tonight, if I don't get across anything else, it's that one thing that we can do. We all can do it. I mean right now. You don't have to ask nobody. Don't contact me, and I ain't contacting you unless you have something that is absolutely constructive to say or do. Some suggestion that, you know, we can jointly be a part of. That's going to be absolutely constructive. For you or for me or for both of us. This conversation that we're having right now is supposed to be constructive. It's not supposed to be anything, no poison in it at all. If someone detects some poison, say, Fuller, I like your presentation. I like a lot of things that you said, but man, you had a little bit of poison in there. I'm gonna tell you where it was, because it had a poisonous effect on me. That's the only thing you go by. So you don't spare Neely Fuller either. Not even on the Carl Nelson show. You don't spare Neely Fuller's feelings. You stomp down on him if you say, hey, but not, personal. You don't make it personal. You say it's not logical. What you're saying, Fuller, is not logical. It ain't going to work, or it shouldn't work. And I'll tell you why. And then we go with that. It ain't business. It ain't personal, as they say. It's business. But that's the main thing. Don't make any more contacts. This Thanksgiving, Christmas, out on the roads, holidays and whatnot, don't make any contact with anybody. Relatives, cousins, stepdaddy, a former spouse, unless it's going to be productive of something absolutely constructive for yourself, for the other person, because you can't do the other person harm now. That's just doing harm. We can do a lot of that, doing something constructive for ourselves, but we're going to harm somebody else unjustly in the process. That's not justice, all right? It's got to be beneficial for everybody involved, or else. No deal. Beneficial, directly, indirectly. Constructive, always, never non-constructive. So that what? At the beginning of this coming year, 2020, white people, just overnight, will notice, black people are not into doing anything non-constructive anymore. Well, yeah, how about that, buddy? Since when? Well, they start talking about it last November. And, they just start passing it on. Nothing non-constructive. Everything constructive. Just that word, constructive. Underline it. Constructive, constructive, constructive. Cause and effect. Benefits to somebody without harming anybody. Solve problems without making any. Solve problems without making any. Solve problems without making any. Suppose that became a New Year's resolution for black culture. Solve problems without making any. And then right up under that, nothing non-constructive, everything constructive in every area of activity, in all of our entertainment. Just ask that question, because all problems are solved through what? The process of questions and answers. Somebody say, well, let's do this. Have a drink of this. You ask a question. Is that going to solve a problem, or is that going to make one? Is that constructive, or is it non-constructive?
All right, hold that thought right there. We got to take another short break. Fixico almost got a question for you. He's calling from Los Angeles. Folks, you too can speak to Neely Fuller. Reach out to us, 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls after the short break right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power. Thank you for staying with us, folks. My guest, Neely Fuller Jr. I hope you're really getting this. I hope you're really listening very keenly. As I mentioned, he uses logic, cause and effect. Those of you, been taking college courses or even law school, because it increases your analytical skills once you figure if you take a logic course. So for young people in school, take that logic course, because you'll understand how to analyze stuff real quickly. And also he uses metaphors as well. So that way it gives you an idea how to comprehend what he's trying to say. Because a lot of people, it goes over their head. Some people get it and they refuse to recognize it. Cognitive dissonance. They just don't want to believe it. They don't want to hear it anymore because it's too much for them. They can't handle it. But those people who understand it and really figure it out, pass it on and tell somebody else, explain it to somebody else how the system of racism and white supremacy really works. Let's take some calls for Neely Fuller. 800-450-7876. Fixico's calling us from L.A. Fixico, you have a question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes, Hotep, Brother Carl, and it's an honor, Dr. Fuller. I have two little very brief no questions. And when white folks call us blacks, Is that a code word that is saying we are in a class of people who can't be identified by origin? And that's the first question. The second question is very short. If there was an African or Caribbean country connected to America like Mexico, would we be stronger culturally?
I don't think so. I think that's just another box. I've thought about this business of origin and telling people what your origin is and whatnot, and that, that we're an African people, and et cetera, et cetera. And talking about our ancestors that we set aside a month for, February, and if we say that's African History Month or African American History or Black History, I say that we need to think. I'm not discounting these things. They serve a purpose. Constructive. It's not non-constructive to do so. But I think we should be a little more expansive. I mean, because the white supremacists are always looking for ways to expand their business and to refine it, to make the business of white supremacy better, work smoother than it is. So codification is about not just coming to a conclusion and stay there if you see that you can do something a little better. And I think something is a little better. That's why I try to say codify everything and try to come up with a modification for your code, or even eradicate that part of the code and come up with something better than the code you had last year. And just keep improving. So one thing that I say about this, talking about, for one thing, our ancestors. I have just one statement in the code about ancestors, and I don't go any further than that. I codified that some years ago. When people ask me, say, well, what can you say about your ancestor? I say, well, my ancestor invented breathing. And I'm telling the truth, because anything that you do in codification, you got to start with the truth. Making up stuff and all like that to make yourself feel good, that's non-constructive. That's definitely anything false is non-constructive. So I just tell the truth. My ancestor invented breathing. Now that's all I say. Now if a person got any questions about that, I'm willing to say more. But that's the truth. My ancestor invented breathing. Now, hypotheses. For example, so people will understand what I'm saying. Say, well, anybody can say that because you're talking about whatever created you. Now we're getting somewhere. And that somewhere is exactly where I want everybody to be. Now we're talking. Now we're really talking. Because it doesn't get any better than breathing. See, I'm running around just talking about my ancestor invented a part for an airplane, and my ancestor built the pyramids, and all right. And what that usually engenders is somebody comes up with another book and says, well, I'm going to refute what you said about that. And so what do you finally have? You have people that stand around shouting at each other in the barbershop about which ancestor did what. Which ancestor built what pyramid and what time period and all like that. And black people, as a part of our culture, we love to argue. And the difference between an argument and a conversation is an argument is designed to do what? Win an argument. A conversation is designed to make progress, to solve problems. That's what conversations do. The white supremacists have conversations. They have arguments every now and then that degenerate into what they call wars, and a lot of bloodshed is made. They make huge mistakes, but it's only when they come back to the conversational tone and follow logic, because logic has no regard for anybody. Logic is logic, okay? And as long as you're using logic, it'll take you where you need to be. Probably not where you want to be, but where you ought to be. So when we start talking about, or whether or not your ancestors, you trace them back to Timbuktu and all like that. No, you can say that, but that might engender an argument. And it might engender just people saying, well, so what? And that might bring on an argument. But if somebody just brings up my ancestors, the ancestor of Neely Fuller, well, my ancestor invented breathing. And if you ask my history, like we're going to have a month coming up called February, Black History Month, when people ask Neely Fuller about his history according to the code, I say my history is everything that ever happened before the beginning of time and since. And that is the truth. If you stop and think about it, that's your history too. Everything that ever happened before the beginning of time and since the beginning of time is your history. And I'm talking about everybody who is listening to me say that. And talking about my history and yours. It's got to be. That's an absolute. So you might say, well, what benefit is that when you put it that way? The benefit is you're being logical. You're not being put in a box. Black people look forward to these boxes called prison cells. We come out of high school looking forward to it. And then the next box after that is a casket. Our minds are always put in a box. Now whoever came up with that saying, and I don't know who did that, I don't know who invented that one, thinking outside the box. They came up with something that really we should use all the time. Hey, I'm through with boxes. I'm through with boxes, okay? I can get in a box soon enough. I don't even like boxing, all right? Because that's in the code book, too. We need to stop, letting them make heroes out of us. And I know that'll hurt a lot of people's feelings, but according to the code, boxing is what? It's not logical. It's not constructive. That thing we call boxing, prize fighting, you get a prize for fighting? No, you shouldn't get a prize for fighting. You shouldn't get a medal for fighting, even though you might have to fight. Nobody should get a medal or a prize for doing harm to anybody. And prize fighting and boxing, something I used to like, and probably deep down still do. A guy throw that sucker punch and whatnot, man, that looks great. Why? I've been trained that way, that's why. But you're doing harm to people. Black people should be in the forefront of saying we are out of the harm business. We are into the justice business. And the people who do harm, we're going to put them in a place where the only thing they can do is harm themselves. That is the black agenda. All the people out here who want to harm somebody unjustly, who are setting out to harm somebody one way or another, the white supremacists mainly, the black agenda is to put you in a situation where you cannot harm anybody but yourself. And that's justice. And we should tell you that right up front, without half-stepping. You need to be in that type of situation. Why? Because it's logical, that's why. It ain't personal, it's business. Now you got to watch Neely Fuller too when you submit these questions. Watch him real close because he'll get away from your question. I hope I didn't get away from the question.
I think you got it. We're coming up on a break, and thank you, Fixico. Thank you for your call. 800-450-7876. You've got a question for Neely Fuller. We'll take it after the short break. But Neely Fuller, when we come back, because you said we should replace racism and white supremacy with justice, I want you to explain how we do that, and how do you define justice? What is justice? So help us out with that. So, folks, we're going to take a short break. We come back, talk to Neely Fuller right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power. And thanks for rolling with us, folks. Our guest is Dr. Francis Wells's mentor. You know him as Neely Fuller Jr. You know what he says. He says, if you don't understand how the system of racism and white supremacy works, then everything else you think you understand will only serve to confuse you. Before I get back to you, though, let me just remind you, coming up in the next few days, you're going to hear from folks like Tony Browder, the Irritated Genie, Ashra Kwesi, Brother Ray Fauntleroy. So if you're in the DMV, tell all your friends to keep their radios locked on 1450 WOL, where information is power. Dr. Neely Fuller Jr., before we left, I asked you to explain justice and why you say that to replace racism and white supremacy, we need to replace it with justice. And if you can define what justice is, so we'll know if we can replace it.
Well, I have a word guide here with a lot of words in it, and the word justice is in there. And why did I put the word justice in there as a compensatory definition? Because I didn't like the definitions that I have seen in all the dictionaries I've been looking at. 1994, I said, what is the real definition of a word called justice? The real definition. Because words are supposed to have definitions. And definitions are supposed to help people to communicate without a lot of confusion. That's the purpose of words. In order to do what? In order to do what needs doing or what should be done. And, with a lot of people, what shouldn't be done. So words are tools to get things done. So I couldn't see where the word justice was getting anything done. Because everything in counter-racist science is about getting things done. Not just talking, but using talk in the form of words and writing in order to accomplish things that need doing, presumably. So this word justice was being kicked around, and I said, what is the actual definition for the word justice? And you can use it in a way that you can get something done. And I couldn't come up with anything in the dictionary because it said justice means fair play. And I said, fair? What does the word fair mean? See, because in the system of white supremacy, you got words that are structured in such a way as define the meaning of that word, but it's causing confusion in the definition. The definition itself is confusing, okay? And a lot of words in the so-called English language are that way, deliberately, because the white supremacists always fashion words, which are nothing but tools, in a way that helps the system of white supremacy. So justice was associated with the word fair, fair play, all right? My fair lady. Now we're getting somewhere, because my fair lady means what? White lady, okay? Fair is associated with the word white. So if you associate a definition with saying fair, and then associate the word fair with the word justice, then justice and whiteness are one and the same. And when I thought about that many years ago, I said, oh, this whole language is this way. That's why I came up with that word guide. So I tried to find out in 1994. I said, I'm going to make a concerted effort, since everybody talks about justice, to find out what is the actual legal definition for the word justice. So it took me a little while, talking to different people and whatnot, scholars and whatnot. But then I said, hey, I'm overlooking something. I'm going to talk to a lawyer about what the word justice means, in the Northwestern Hemisphere at least. So I did. And the lawyer immediately, now showing how dumb I was. I'm asking scholars and whatnot, and they're going all this and that and the other and all over the place, like a lot of people. Not knocking scholars, all right, but I'm just saying that's the way it went. I came up empty. I wasn't satisfied. So I said, well, I'll get the legal definition if don't get nothing else. So I asked a lawyer, and the lawyer says, justice is whatever the Supreme Court says it is in the Northwestern Hemisphere. I said, and that's the definition? Yeah, the definition is whatever they say it is. I said, hey, I'm really not satisfied now. I mean, it's whatever I said, Supreme Court justices change, and they change their opinions. And Supreme Courts change their opinions. Sometimes after many years, they reverse decisions and say conditions brought it about and all that, like this, legislation. And I'm saying it's whimsical. I said justice should have a solid definition that doesn't change. And then I even put it in the code book. I said laws change, but justice remains the same. Now, I put that in there even before I knew what the dictionary definition of the word justice was. I mean, but I had a concept of it. So in 1994, I said, I'm going to come up with one that I think will stand the test of time, a definition, and something that you can measure, because justice is about scales. That's how they depict it. Scales, balance. Something, a measurement. What do you use a scale for? To measure. Okay. So I want something in the wording of justice that has to do with measuring, something you can measure. So here's what I came up with. And people can take it or leave it, or if they find one better, or they invent one better, because it's wide open for anybody to do so. I'd like to know what it is. But right now, I'm going to hold on to the one that I invented in 1994. And that is, it's two parts. Justice. Number one, part one, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's part one, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. Part two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, I said that's the best definition for justice that is naturally, I said I came up with it, which I did, that I have seen. And if someone comes up with one better, and I'm steady looking for something better, I'll adopt it. And everybody else should too, if one is better than that. But I think it'll be some time before anybody comes up with one better than that. Now, having said that, let's see what that measures. We do that all the time, right in front of us. That's how I came up with the idea. An ambulance, for example, because I should be able to give examples of everything that I'm talking about. That's code. Just don't say something to people and then walk off. No, be able to explain what you're saying and show how it would work. That's codification. If it's something that doesn't work, you ain't got no business with it. So how would justice work? How would you know when you got it? Nobody's being mistreated. So it's 10 people in a room, for instance. I'll digress for a minute from my second part. I'll go to part one. You've got 10 people in a room, and you say, okay, is anybody in here on this job who's being mistreated? All 10 hands go up. And you say, okay, wait a minute, hold it, Let's start in the sense of producing a product called justice, because justice is a product that has never been produced. Say, but in the process of doing so, we're going to guarantee that nobody's being harmed. Everybody held up their hands saying they're being harmed. So let's find out who's being harmed the most. That's how you would do it. You got to have a procedure. On this job that you're on, being harmed the most. You start with the person who's being harmed the most. There's 10 people in that room, and then you work back until nobody is being harmed. Then you get to the second part. Is anybody on this job that need help? All right, in this 10 room. Anybody, this is on a job now. I'm giving a practical application of justice in action. Because you can do this starting tomorrow or whenever. Starting this minute. Okay, is there anybody here in this section on this job who needs help? All 10 hands go up. All right? So you do the same procedure. Start start with the person that needs help the most. That's the procedure. Oh, Miss Allen, back there in the back seat. You know, after she held up the list that she has of all the things she needs help with, her list is longer than everybody else, twice as long. So we're going to start with Miss Allen. She needs help the most. Now, practical application, a lot of people will say, well, Fuller, no, that ain't, no, you're going to have to go further than that. Well, we do a little bit of it all the time. If you got red light people, you drive a long distance to work every day, you probably run into it every day or every other day. That ambulance comes through. Everybody pulls over and lets the ambulance through. Now, that's the second part of justice there, being demonstrated. What? You are letting the ambulance through because that's the person who needs help the most. Now, you do need help. You miss getting breakfast, all right? You're stuck in traffic. Your stomach is growling. You haven't eaten in 2 days because you've been working steady, overtime, all right? But this person that's in that ambulance got an arm that's half dangling from its socket. That's the person that needs help the most. That person may lose that arm. That's why all of the traffic, semi-trailers pull over, let that ambulance through. Now, that's a little demonstration that we experience all the time. Why can't the whole world have that kind of position? Mr. Rogers is correct about a lot of things. Of course, I don't agree with him on one of his bylines, one of his main things that he say, I like you are. I hope he doesn't like Neely Fuller like he is, because Neely Fuller is nowhere near what he ought to be. That's when you should like a person and tell them that they are likable. It's when they are where they ought to be. Nobody on this planet should like anybody the way we're all messed up, okay? But we should reduce the harm or eliminate the harm we do to each other, whether we like each other or not. If we wait until we like each other in order to stop doing harm, and I'm still talking about justice here, that takes too long. So you don't do harm even to people that you don't like. But you can tell them, and you should tell them, I don't like you, probably never will. You know, I don't even look forward to liking you. Because I don't think you're ever going to be the type of person that anybody should like. But I'm not going to do anything to mistreat you. I'm not about mistreatment. You can count on me not to do anything to mistreat you.
Wow, that's deep.
And do everything I can to help you do something constructive.
Right. Because we got a minute left. So I want you to use the minute now to tell folks how can they get a copy of this workbook.
Yes, sir. And I hope that a lot of things that I say in here, because they are in the book, can be transferred to you. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the revised, expanded edition of the 1984 edition, and the 1984 edition is up there too. I don't know why some people wanted it. Some people told me why they wanted it because they understood it better.
We got to run, Neely, but thank you for sharing that with us.
ProduceJustice.com. Thank you very much.
Gotcha. ProduceJustice.com. Folks, you're out of here. Stay strong. Stay positive. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power. Thank you.